What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today, continuing to talk about the New York Rangers. They are back in the news, and of course, the latest introduction to the saga with the New York Rangers this week is Kaapo Kakko, the former 2019 second overall pick of the New York Rangers, has been traded. Seattle Kraken are the newest team to acquire Kaapo Kakko in exchange for a couple of draft picks, and I think it's Will Borgen is the player involved from Seattle. Really interesting trade because this is sending a precedent right now by what we've seen from Chris Drury. And all I think Chris Drury is doing at this point is kind of sealing the nail in the coffin for his career with the Rangers. Now, this was talked about even after the Trouba situation. The comments were made that it's kind of a rite of passage to get fired from Madison Square Garden. And that's kind of a dig at James Dolan, Chris Drury, and everything kind of at the top of the Rangers organization. And I was watching a Steve Dangle podcast the other day, and they were talking about how does this get fixed with the current group they have? And it's probably not going to, because the problem is, you look at James Dolan, who's at the top. His son, one of the Dolan sons, is in charge of kind of the HR of the Rangers. And then you have Chris Drury. And now we've seen Kaapo Kakko came out last week, was scratched. Now, I think partially the reason he was scratched is because they might have already been working on a trade. And the reality is, there's a pretty good chance that trade was already being made by Chris Drury before he was scratched. Now, when he got scratched and then came out and said what he said, I'm sure that didn't help matters for him. But I think Kaapo Kakko, I think Chris Drury, I think everybody internally already knew that there was a trade in the works at the very least. That's why they sat him out. And I think what's frustrating for Rangers fans here is Kaapo Kakko hasn't necessarily been the problem with the Rangers. There are so many other aspects of this team right now that they'd like to fix. And the problem is, it's easier to make the patchwork on things that aren't as difficult. Like the Mika Zibanejad trade, if that were to ever happen, which I don't think is going to happen during this season, at the very least, that there's going to be a lot more involved in getting that sort of deal done in any way compared to a trade where Kaapo Kakko goes out the door. It's a lot easier to get that Kakko deal to go through and to get it to do what you need it to do. And I think for the Rangers, I came out, and this is going back to what I said earlier, I think there is the mindset that it's New York. It's the New York Rangers, an Original Six franchise playing in the world's most famous arena. And there's definitely that mentality to it. And I'm not going to deny that. But I think there is going to be a change, if it hasn't already. Under Chris Drury, I think the Rangers have a culture problem. And I don't think a lot of guys are going to be as excited to go to the Rangers under this current group. And I say that with a caveat because I think the second that we see Chris Drury leave, I think that mentality is going to go back to, I want to play for the Rangers. That's an attractive option. And ultimately, I think that's what's going to be the end of Chris Drury's career, is when it comes time to re-signing contract negotiations this summer, going into next year, going into 2 years from now. God forbid it takes that long for Chris Drury to get fired. I think players on the team currently and guys that might be looking at New York as an option in free agency, they might stay away. And I think that's going to be something we're going to see here as soon as the next couple of months. By summer 2025, I think it's going to be pretty established what's going on here. Because the guys there are held in a very high regard. Artemi Panarin. As much as maybe he wasn't the best player, Jacob Trouba. Artemi Panarin, Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, Vincent Trocheck, all those guys on the Rangers. Those guys are well respected around the NHL. And if they're going around telling their buddies, yeah, things are not going so great in New York, I'm not too happy there, that's going to create a problem where that guy's going to tell somebody, oh yeah, he's a free agent this summer, maybe stay away from New York right now. Or guys that are currently with the Rangers, like a Ryan Lindgren, his contract expires this summer in 2025. I don't care what money you're going to give me. I want to go out. So now the Rangers have no leverage when it comes to making a trade because they're going to have to take whatever the best offer is. It's either that or they lose him for nothing next summer. And I think what's really scary for the Rangers right now, you look at their record. Right now, the New York Rangers are 15-15-1. They currently find themselves tied for second to last in the Metropolitan Division with the New York Islanders. It is crazy how the mighty have fallen for the New York Rangers. In what was expected to be a season where it was supposed to be the Hurricanes and the Rangers at the top of the Metro. We thought that's how it's been the last 5 years, so of course that would be the case this year. And we've been proven wrong. A couple of teams have really played their way into the top of that division, like the Capitals and the Devils. So we're living in a world right now where the Rangers really have to have a reality check. And I don't think the Kakko trade is going to make things any better for this team. I think it's just created more distractions for the team. And it's probably caused a lot of those guys to be pretty pissed off, and rightfully so. And I think that things are probably going to get a little bit worse before they get better for the Rangers, to be honest with you. But it's going to be really interesting to see what Chris Drury does over the next couple of months going into the trade deadline and things like that. What is the mentality here? Because I think the fact they traded Kakko for what they did, that doesn't even seem like a move where they're selling. I think that's a move where they're just trying to just get rid of the guy now. Like, I don't even care what I get in return necessarily, just get him out. And I think that's a really scary thing, because if that's where they're at right now, is that really the best trade that Chris Drury could have got for Kaapo Kakko? I don't think a lot of people are talking about that, because I think he could go to Seattle and put together a pretty good career. I'm not saying he's going to be worthy of that second overall pick. I mean, yeah, you're not going to get that price in return for him right now, but they did not get much at all for him. Now, that does make me wonder, are they looking to move out a little bit of salary to maybe manipulate another trade? And that's part of the reason they traded Kakko. You have to look at the underlying things here. You can't just look at the trade as it is, right? Like, yes, the trade as it is doesn't look that great, but again, maybe that's what was part of the implications here, right? Like, Seattle's like, listen, unless you're retaining some salary here, you're not getting anything more than a third and a fourth round pick here. And I think that was part of the thing. The Rangers were more worried about moving out that salary and freeing up some cap space, maybe to make that other trade, instead of what they actually got in return for Kakko, if you get what I mean. And Will Borgen isn't that bad of a player. I mean, they're definitely making some changes to the blue line, adding William Borgen, adding Euro Vakanainen from the Trouba trade. They're definitely making some changes there, and I think they are preparing for a situation where they've traded Trouba. They're probably going to lose Lindgren in the next couple of months, whether they trade him out or he leaves in free agency. I don't see him being there in fall of 2025 with the New York Rangers. I just don't think that's likely. So they're starting to get some guys to kind of damage control in the meantime. And the problem is, the Rangers do have some good young players coming up. Brenn Ottman, Will Cooley, who we're seeing already a little bit this year, Brett Berard. Those are guys that are exciting. They're guys that are going to be good players in the National Hockey League. But for their development, coming into the Rangers in this situation probably isn't the best thing for their development. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. You guys know I'm an Islanders fan. A lot of my Ranger fans out there, I do have a lot of you, because you understand I don't show bias when I can. This is one of those situations where this is a very correctable thing for the Rangers, and it starts at the top. James Dolan has to get rid of Chris Drury. And from there, let the rest of the season, the dust settle, let a new GM come in and maybe get things turned around over the summer. And I hate to say it, you kind of have to do this now. And I hate that they have to do that, because it seems like a very reactionary move. What GMs are going to be available right now that are really worthy? If people would freak out if I said the word Bowman right now, but that is a possibility. He is available. So I'm kind of at a loss here because I don't really know what you do here to quickly fix this. Because in New York, things are fast. You have 2 sports franchises in baseball, 2 sports franchises in hockey, 2 sports franchises in football, 2 sports franchises in basketball. You get the theme here. New York is the place to be when you're winning. But when you're losing, you end up kind of like where the Islanders have been, or the Brooklyn Nets, having difficulty bringing in enough fans. The Islanders have really struggled bringing in fans. Citi Field, the Mets, one of the bottom teams in the league for attendance. If you are not good, and the Mets have actually been good recently, if you are not good, you are not going to get the attention that you want. Now, I think the Rangers are kind of outside of that because of the fact that they're in the heart of Manhattan at Madison Square Garden. I don't think attendance is ever going to be an issue for the Rangers. I just don't see that. I don't think we live in that world where that ever could happen. But that doesn't mean the fan base isn't going to be a little bit toxic and upset with what's going on here. And more importantly, taking away the outside noise, the inside of that locker room right now, especially for those younger guys, and that 8-year contract you just signed for Shesterkin, you want to make sure those guys are on page with everything and are kind of up and ready to go. So that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think down below. I think this is just a weird thing with the Rangers. You know, it's not impossible for them to turn it around, but I mean, you know, the Flyers are 1 point ahead of them. The Penguins are 2 points ahead of them. There is now a 10-point gap between the Rangers and third place in the Metropolitan Division, and that's the Carolina Hurricanes. And there's a 3-point gap between them and the final wild card spot in the East, which is the Ottawa Senators, which is crazy. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you to all our new subscribers here on the channel. I have you guys listed here, so thank you to all you guys, all our new subscribers to the channel. The channel's finally been getting some subscribers recently. I think it's because I'm making more videos. That's probably helping a little bit. That's going to do it for today, and I'll see you again next time.